Alright, so Samsung launched this, the Galaxy A14 5G. It's an entry-level A-series 5G smartphone. It runs on Android 13 with One UI Core 5.0, and more importantly, it's got a 5000 mAh monster battery. And you'll be able to pick up one of these in 3 very unique colors, and you'll get various RAM options and internal storage to choose from. Now, what really stands out in the A14 is its design, specifically the color and the back panel. I mean, if you look at the camera housing, it looks so much like what we saw with the S22 Ultra, which had independent camera rings. And so getting a flagship style design in a phone that's under Rs 15,000, quite impressive. But a low price also means you get a plastic bag, albeit with a very unique laser pattern, and it's quite literally textured too. I also really like how this looks like an absolute unibody shell. The back panel just kind of melts into the edges. Gives it a very minimal, clean look. And it also has this flat front surface which looks great. Now there's a triple camera deck at the back with a primary lens, a depth sensor and a macro lens, and we'll talk about that later. You also get a 3.5mm headphone jack, which are really hard to see these days. You also get a mono speaker grill right here. There's also a side-mounted fingerprint sensor, which I still really like, and they're so much faster than the optical fingerprint sensors in general. There's a fully capable dual SIM tray that allows you to mount 2 SIM cards and a microSD card to expand storage by up to 1 terabyte. But yeah, it is a big phone and you'll feel it. It's definitely not meant for one-hand use. Surprisingly, despite the big size, it doesn't weigh very heavy. However, it does accommodate a 5000 mAh battery and a 6.6-inch large display. That does require space, and that's the benefit of having a big phone. Now, obviously, with a big display, you get the perks of enjoying content and gaming. Now, it is a 6.6-inch LCD FHD Plus display, but with a refresh rate of 90 Hz. And colors look decent. The screen is sufficiently bright even for outdoor use. And so if you're into streaming on YouTube or even on OTT platforms like Netflix, Disney, Prime, this phone is quite apt. Yes, it is a 90 Hz display, not all the way up to 120, but 90 Hz, it's still quite smooth, and that really improves your everyday experience with the phone, and even more so while gaming. The only slight gripe I have is with the bezels. For 2023, the bezels, specifically the chin, is on the thicker side. And I do hope that as we move ahead, Samsung sort of polishes this design to make the screens more bezel-less. Okay, now let's talk about the software. So the A14 ships with Android and is running One UI Core 5. So you get all the One UI goodies like, the ability to customize your lock screen with colors, clock types, and notification styles. You can change your color palette and icon styles from color themes that match with the wallpaper you apply. Within wallpaper segment, you get plenty of options to choose from. Presets are readily available, and so you can personalize to a great extent. You also get the ability to expand virtual RAM by up to 8 GB. So even if you get the 4GB RAM model, you've got some wiggle room to improve performance. You also get edge panels, which you can enable from, under the display settings, and then choose the edge panels that you'd like to access. There's also focus modes and routines now in this entry-level A14, which is super cool. And usually that's something you would often see in premium or upper premium segments within the S series and the A series. But to see it on this phone, I think it's quite amazing. And given that this is a Samsung phone, you do get Samsung connected features like, quick share and even call and text on other devices. But do note that this is One UI Core 5.0. So it's a optimized version of the regular One UI 5.0. That is to say that certain features are cut down. For example, there is no always-on display, no secure folder, no inbuilt screen recorder. There's no Samsung Dex or even link to Windows. So yeah, these are a few features that you'd have to compromise on, and they're most likely removed to ensure that you get a more optimized, lightweight, and smooth experience on the Galaxy A14. And by the way, on the Galaxy A14, Samsung does promise you 2 years of OS upgrade and 4 years of security updates, so that's pretty sweet. Alright, now let's jump into performance. So the A14, it ships with Exynos 1330. It's a new processor with impressive in-segment performance. I mean, if I compare it to some other CPUs in this price segment, it's actually very competitive. But you know what? Benchmark scores aren't everything. It all depends on the optimization as well. Firstly, this is a 5G compatible phone, and Samsung has sort of been at the forefront of launching 5G phones ever since 2020 across 12 5G bands, and that I think is pretty impressive coverage. And during my use with the Galaxy A14, for an entry-level smartphone, it mostly exceeded my expectations. I mean, very smooth performance overall, launching apps and moving in between them was an absolute breeze. Now, of course, while loading heavy high-definition games like Asphalt 9, it does take a while, but once it's loaded, the gameplay was super smooth. I didn't experience any kind of lag while playing. It's smooth as butter. And even when I was playing Call of Duty in online multiplayer mode, as long as your internet connectivity is stable and signals are strong, the gameplay was flawless. No interruptions. Oh, and this does have Dolby Atmos, so as long as you've got paired wireless or wired earphones, you'd be able to experience Dolby Atmos. Okay, now let's talk about the camera deck. So you get a primary 50 megapixel sensor, you've got a depth sensor, and a macro lens. You don't have an ultra wide lens, which is a bit of a bummer, but anyway, let's focus on the photo samples first. So here are samples I took using the primary lens in regular 12 megapixel mode. And for an entry-level smartphone, the picture quality is actually quite decent. It's natural for sure. It clearly doesn't overprocess, owing to a more simple processor. And so photos don't look aggressively sharpened. I mean, these are absolutely untouched, unfiltered photos right out of the camera. Now this is in Delhi and the air quality has been severely poor for a few days, and so if photos look a little unclear, it's partly because of the air quality. Now sometimes the photos do tend to be slightly overexposed, but that was rare, okay? Even indoors, if you look at this one, it does look a little overexposed and something Samsung can easily fix over a few software updates. But yeah, other than that, quite nice. All of these are available for you to download, by the way. The link will be in the description. I also took some photos under semi-low light conditions, and you can clearly see the smog in Delhi in this picture. But to be honest, I was actually quite surprised by the low light performance. The noise levels are surprisingly low, and if you see, a lot of the detail and color was well retained. I really wasn't expecting this from an entry-level smartphone, but this looks good. I also took some shots in portrait mode, and again, I do feel that the separation between the background and the foreground was quite well captured. Edges were well detected, even for very tricky subjects as you see here. All in all, decent camera quality. I just missed the ultra-wide lens in this camera set. And in terms of recording videos, so the A14 can only shoot up to 1080p, that is Full HD quality at up to 30 FPS, okay? It's an entry-level smartphone, so 1080p is acceptable. Oh, and they've also upgraded the selfie camera from 5 megapixel to 13 megapixel in the Galaxy A14, so you get more detail now, and photos in portrait mode, they really come out well. And let me also quickly take you through the camera software. You get a very handful of modes, okay, including portrait, video, photo, and within more, you get Pro, Panorama, Food, Night, and Macro. And within Pro, you actually get the option to change the ISO, the shutter speed, the white balance, and even manually change focus. All of that is actually really good. Now, I'll quickly touch upon the battery life. So it's got a 5000 mAh battery capacity, which actually is a lot. And especially if you couple that with a very power efficient chip like the Exynos 1330, which is not a power guzzler, you can easily draw out 2 days of non-stop use. The downside, however, is that it only supports 15-watt charging speed, and that definitely is not a lot, but I do think that 2 days of non-stop use makes up for it in some way. But then if you're someone who has massive consumption, you drain battery really fast, you would probably benefit from having that fast charging, but with the Galaxy A14, you're out of luck on that one. By the way, guys, along with the Galaxy A14, Samsung has also launched a slightly more premium Galaxy A23 5G, which comes with slightly better and stable 50 megapixel camera, a Snapdragon 695 processor, 120Hz display, and with more privacy and security features. And so if you've got a slightly higher budget, you could also consider the Galaxy A23. But yeah, that's it about the Galaxy A14. And in this price segment, you'll definitely find some phone that does offer some spec better than the Galaxy A14. So it eventually does boil down to your personal preferences and priorities. But I would like to mention that I personally prefer the reliability of Samsung phones, and even their after-sales support is incredible. Anyway, so that's it, guys. If you have any questions about the Galaxy A14 or even the Galaxy A23, you can leave them in the comments section below. And as always, if you enjoyed watching the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification icon and mark all. I'll see you guys in the next one.